Hey fellow detective, welcome back to my channel. A 7-year-old girl went missing suddenly while camping with her family. As she remained unfound, rumors of her being spirited away began circulating in society. After several years, there was a breakthrough in the case, but unexpectedly, it raised even more questions. Today, let's take a look at the disappearance of Misaki Ogura, a case that occurred in Japan.
The missing girl is 7 years old Misaki Ogura. She lived in Narita City with her parents and an older sister who was 2 years her senior. Misaki was a shy, kind, and adorable girl, loved by everyone. She had a fondness for small animals, singing, and was fairly athletic. Misaki's mother, Tomoko Ogura, joined a group of mothers on social media platform. Since the children of the group members were of similar ages, they had plenty to discuss. They frequently exchanged parenting tips and organized various social activities for the families to meet up. On Monday, September 23, 2019, which was a public holiday in Japan called Autumn Equinox Day, coinciding with a 3-week weekend, coupled with the pleasant weather of September, parents in the group suggested organizing a 3-day, 2-night camping trip. They planned to go to an automobile campground in Yamanashi Prefecture. The location was convenient to reach by car as it was near the Tokyo area and had a nearby highway. Moreover, it was known for its beautiful surroundings and was a popular camping spot among the locals. Tomoko Ogura thought this activity would allow the whole family to relax, strengthening their bond, and provide an opportunity for her 2 daughters to make new friends. So she decided to sign up.
A total of 7 families participated in the camping trip, making a total of 27 people. On September 21st, the day they set out for camping, the Ogura family lived a bit further away. Therefore, they had to leave earlier than the other families. As the father had work commitments and could only join them a day later, it was up to the mother to drive and go ahead with 2 daughters.
At 11:15 p.m., Tomoko Ogura and her 2 daughters finally arrived at the campsite. She met up with the other families and found a place to set up their camp. After settling everything, they had lunch. In the afternoon, after lunch, everyone began their free activities. The parents chatted near the tents and prepared snacks. Meanwhile, Misaki Ogura joined 11 other children to play in the nearby forest. The forest was close to their campsite, and the parents could easily keep an eye on them, so everyone felt at ease letting the children play there. After a while, the children returned to have their snacks. At 3:35 p.m., 9 of the children, including Misaki's older sister, wanted to go out and play again. Misaki also wanted to join them, but she was eating slowly and couldn't leave yet. So her sister went ahead with the other children. 5 minutes later, Misaki finished eating and hurried to catch up. Just 10 minutes after Misaki went out, parents expressed concern about letting the children play on their own and suggested calling them back. 2 parents volunteered to go and find them. They went to a riverbank about 150 meters away from the campsite and found several children, bringing them back to the campsite. When they returned, the parents did a head count and discovered that 1 child was missing, and that child was Misaki Ogura. Upon realizing that Misaki Ogura was missing, the parents became extremely worried. They divided the tasks among themselves, with some parents staying at the campsite to take care of the returned children, while others went out to search for Misaki. They searched not only the nearby forests, but also carefully checked all the tents within the campsite. but Misaki was nowhere to be found. As time passed and it reached 5 p.m., the sky started to darken, but Misaki had still not been found. Tomoko Ogura had no choice but to call the police and inform her husband that Misaki was missing. When the police arrived, it was already twilight at 6 p.m., and the sky had turned completely dark. They immediately deployed search dogs and began a thorough search, hoping to find Misaki during the critical initial hours. Soon after, the fire department also arrived and joined the search. They continued searching until 10 p.m., when the search operation for that day had to be ended due to safety concerns. At 1:30 a.m., Misaki's father arrived with some friends. As soon as they arrived, they were determined to rush into the forest to search. But they were advised against it by the police and fire department. The low visibility at night and the possible presence of wild animals in the vicinity make it highly dangerous to move around in the forest. However, driven by the desperate desire to rescue his daughter, Misaki's father and his friends insisted on searching. They searched until 3 a.m. but still find no trace of Misaki. The next morning, the police, firefighters, and volunteers continued the search early in the morning. The self-defense force also joined in to assist. They expanded the search area to a radius of 8 kilometers. In order to reach and search areas where rescue personnel had difficulties accessing or where visibility was obstructed, helicopters and drones were deployed to assist in the search.
The police carefully studied the surrounding terrain of the campsite. They record a missing person case that occurred in December 2017 in Ichisan City. A boy had gone missing in the parking lot, and despite searching for several days, he could not be found. Eventually, rescue personnel followed the river next to the parking lot and find the boy downstream. He had already lost consciousness, and forensic examination later determines that he had drowned. Coincidentally, near the campsite where Misaki went missing, there was a river. Could it be possible that she had fallen into the river as well?
The police decided to send personnel to search along the river and requested drivers to explore the downstream dam, but they couldn't find any trace of Misaki. The campsite was situated in a complex mountainous terrain, significantly increasing the difficulty of the rescue operation. During the search of Misaki, a volunteer accidentally tumbled down a slope and got injured. Despite these challenges, the search operation never ceased. Everyone hoped to find Misaki by maximizing their search time. On September 13, the 10th day since Misaki's disappearance, Tomoko Ogura held a press conference. She publicly shared multiple photos of Misaki and provided information about her disappearance, appealing for help and any potential leads. She also created a web page and shared extensive information about Misaki's on social media platforms, hoping to garner more attention to the case. As soon as people learned about Misaki's disappearance, they engagedly provided clues. Many individuals wished to join the volunteer search team, increasing the number of people involved in the search to 1,700. However, despite these efforts, there was still no progress in finding Misaki. It wasn't until October 6, 16 days since Misaki's disappearance, that the search operation came to a halt. The golden window of time for rescue had already passed, and Japan was being affected by a typhoon. Considering the safety reason, the police made the difficult decision to suspend the search. There are several theories being discussed online regarding the disappearance of Misaki. The first three theories suggest that she may have accidentally rolled down the mountain, fallen into the water, or been attacked by a bear. However, if that were the case, there should have been some trace at the scene, such as loose soil, footprints, torn clothing, or even red liquid. But none of these clues were found at the site. This led some people to speculate whether she was adopted by someone. Looking at the map of the campsite, the area where the children played after having their snacks was by the river in the northwest forest of the campsite. To reach there, one simply needed to take a right turn at the fort outside the campsite. However, Tomoko mentions that she saw Misaki heading left at the fort. Going left would lead to 3 different places. If she continued left, she would reach the southern forest where they played before snack time. In that case, Tomoko should have seen her. If Misaki turned right, there was a road that led to the area where her sister and friends were playing. But if she kept going straight, she would eventually come across a bridge by the river. And if she crossed it and continued walking, she would move further away from the campsite. Since nobody has seen Misaki, it raised the question of whether she crossed the bridge and was then adopted by someone. Another possibility was that she was hit by a car, and the driver, in an attempt to destroy evidence, took her away. As Misaki remained unfound, public speculation grew, and some internet users even began to suspect Tomoko, Misaki's mother. This internet user discovered that Tomoko had posted a photo on Instagram during the time Misaki went missing. They questioned why Tomoko wasn't busy searching for her daughter instead of updating her social media. Some also questioned why Tomoko didn't immediately share their daughter's photo and seek public assistance right after Misaki's disappearance, waiting until 10 days had passed before making the information public. In addition, some internet users discovered that Tomoko had changed her hairstyle and dyed her hair during an interview. This led them to question why Tomoko would be concerned about her appearance in such a situation. Some internet users also noticed that under Tomoko's social media posts about the search for Misaki, there were often many texts related to pets. At the same time, Tomoko initiated some fundraising campaigns, claiming that the funds would be used to cover the expense of searching for Misaki. As a result, public opinion accused Tomoko of exploiting people's sympathy to make money and attract business. These opinions gained momentum, and many people shared them without verifying the facts. This put immense pressure on Tomoko and her family. Despite Tomoko's persistent efforts to explain herself, internet users were relentless, with some even making threats against her. In September 2020, the police resumed the search for Misaki, but they believed that the chances of finding Misaki were slim. Tomoko refused to give up on any opportunity to find her daughter. She continued to post missing person notices on social media and insisted on distributing flyers at the campsite and nearby areas, urging anyone with information to contact them. It wasn't until 2.5 years after Misaki's disappearance that a breakthrough occurred in the case. On April 25, 2022, the police received a report stating that some bone life fragments had been found on a dried-up water source on a hillside located 600 meters away from the campsite. The police collected some of the bones for analysis, and it was confirmed that they were fragments of a human skull. However, due to prolonged exposure to the elements and natural erosion, the forensic team couldn't extract usable DNA to identify the owner of the skull. They could only rely on mitochondrial DNA to determine a maternal relationship, such as with the grandmother or mother. In the meantime, the police continued their search in the vicinity. Towards the end of April and the beginning of May, they discovered fragments of a shoulder blade and pieces of black fabric resembling clothing. Later, about 200 to 300 meters upstream, they find a green sports shoe and socks. These clothing items bore the resemblance to what Misaki was wearing on the day of her disappearance. On May 12th, the mitochondrial DNA test result for the skull fragments came back, confirming a familial relationship between the skull's owner and Tomoko. Then, on May 14, the DNA test results for the shoulder blade were released, confirming that it belonged to Misaki Ogura. On the same day, the police announced that Misaki had passed away and that she had been killed shortly after her disappearance.
Although the police had recovered Misaki's remains, the case was far from over and seems to give rise to even more questions. The discovery of the bone fragments occurred within the search area from the initial search operation. This led some people to question why, despite the extensive search efforts and the deployment of numerous personnel, Misaki was not found earlier. Could there have been flaws or issues with the search operation conducted at that time?
The Yamanashi Prefectural Police did not directly address the question, but they stated that the location where the bones and clothing were found had been thoroughly searched multiple times during the initial search operation. They emphasized that there were no issues with the search conducted back then. Personally, I believe that given the dense tree cover and deep slopes near the campsite, it wouldn't be surprising if some narrow crevices were overlooked. However, a more significant question arises from Tomoko's statement that Misaki was last seen running westward. So why were her scalp and shoulder blade found in the east? The location where the scalp was discovered was a dried-up water source, leading some to speculate that Misaki might have been swept away by water. It's possible that she ended up in a location that rescuers couldn't easily find during the initial search, and that it took several years for changes in the natural environment to reveal her, who had been hidden from view. Misaki's shoulder blade, clothing, and sports shoes were found upstream. Logically, she should have been killed upstream, and then her scalp would have been washed downstream. However, it would take about 30 minutes to walk from the campsite to the downstream location, which is situated on a slope where even adults struggle to maintain their footing. How could a 7-year-old child make it up there? This led some suggest that Misaki might have been attacked by wild animals, such as bears, and dragged away. However, if she had been attacked by large animals, her bones would likely show signs of injuries, which the forensic team did not find, making this possibility less likely. Another theory suggests that Misaki might have been targeted by someone, and years later, the person placed her remains in that location. But who would have a motive to harm Misaki, and where were her remains during those intervening years? Ironically, experts have noticed that Misaki's body was found in such a rugged mountainous area, indicating that her circumstances were not simply an ordinary mountain accident. There are many inexplicable aspects to this case, and it feels unnatural. At the same time, some have raised suspicion about the person who discovered Misaki's scalp. As mentioned earlier, the location where the skull was found is a slope where even adults struggle to maintain their footing. So why did the person venture there? Additionally, that individual had actually discovered the bones 2 days prior on the 23rd, but didn't immediately report it to the police. Instead, they took some photographs and left the scene, only reporting it 2 days later. Why did they behave in such a manner? Despite the shocking news of Misaki's demise, the events that transpired after she ran out of the campsite remained a mystery to everyone.
For Misaski's family, while the confirmation of her death is devastating blow, they no longer have to endure the torment of searching for her. They hope that the investigation can yield results soon, providing closure to the Ogura family. What are your thoughts on Misaki's Ogura's disappearance? Feel free to share your comments below.